Why this episode is different. SpongeBob SquarePants is known for its nonsense. The humor thrives on breaking logic, campfires underwater, a talking squirrel living in a dome, and a fry cook who treats jellyfishing like a sacred ritual. For years, this absurdity has been part of the show's charm. But then came SB 129. This episode didn't just play with nonsense, it felt unsettling. The pacing slowed to a crawl, backgrounds went eerily quiet. Squidward's journey didn't feel like slapstick, it felt existential. Fans were left scratching their heads. Was this just a surreal one-off? Was it secretly about death? Or was the show experimenting with something much darker than its usual tone? And that's the key. SB129 stands out because it refuses to reset neatly at the end. Unlike most episodes where chaos happens but life goes on as usual, here the story leaves behind paradoxes, broken logic, and unanswered questions. Over the decades, this has fueled countless fan theories. Some believe Squidward actually died in the void. Others argue it's about nihilism, the idea that nothing truly matters. But if you piece together every clue, a far more complex picture emerges. It's a story about identity, paradoxes, immortality, and eternal suffering, all hiding under the mask of a kid's cartoon. Squidward's freeze and the first paradox. It all starts innocently. Squidward, frustrated with SpongeBob and Patrick disturbing his clarinet playing, storms into the Krusty Krab and locks himself inside the freezer. Classic Squidward, always desperate for peace. But instead of coming out minutes later, he wakes up 2,000 years in the future. That already raises questions. Why didn't anyone open the freezer in all that time? The Krusty Krab is a restaurant. Surely Mr. Krabs or another worker would have opened it. And even if nobody restocked for centuries, Squidward's frozen body is clearly visible through the glass. The idea that no one noticed for 2 millennia makes no sense. Unless the timeline itself is protecting the freeze. And then there's the bigger paradox. At the end of the episode, Squidward eventually returns to his present day. But we never see anyone unfreeze the original Squidward still stuck in the freezer, which means there are now 2 Squidwards in the same timeline, one who lived through a surreal odyssey across time and space, and one blissfully frozen, unaware. That's a paradox the show never resolves, but it's not unique. In Season 7's Back to the Past, SpongeBob and Patrick break history, leading to a future where Man Ray takes over the world. That episode confirmed Bikini Bottom's timeline can split and double, meaning SB129 might have left behind a second, frozen Squidward as part of the loop. This isn't a one-off gag. It's the show quietly confirming that Squidward's life, and possibly all of Bikini Bottom, is trapped in a fragile timeline that resets only when the cycle demands it. The future of SpongeBob and Patrick. When Squidward wakes up in the year 4017, he finds a chrome-plated city and robotic clones of SpongeBob everywhere. It's funny at first glance. Everything is chrome in the future. But there's a hidden truth behind it. In reality, sea sponges can live thousands of years. They don't age like most animals. Instead, they regenerate endlessly, shedding old parts and growing new ones. Some scientists even argue they're biologically immortal. Starfish like Patrick share similar powers. Not only can they regrow limbs, but in certain species, a whole starfish can regenerate from a single fragment. That means in SpongeBob's world, SpongeBob and Patrick wouldn't just survive, they would clone themselves over and over again for thousands of years. The sponge Squidward meets isn't a descendant. It's SpongeBob himself, replicated across centuries, carrying forward his memories. That explains why Sponge greets him calmly, as if he was expecting Squidward all along. This moment isn't random. It's the cycle playing out again. Even more chilling, Patrick in the future appears with 2 heads. This lines up with the episode Karate Star, where Patrick jokes about regrowing limbs. If his cloning went wrong after thousands of years, mutations could happen, hence a 2-headed Patrick. These aren't just silly gags, they're glimpses into the disturbing immortality of SpongeBob and Patrick. They aren't just eternal, they're self-replicating beings who remember Squidward's arrival every time. Squidward accidentally creates jellyfishing. Desperate to escape, Squidward enters the time machine again. But instead of returning home, he overshoots and lands in prehistoric Bikini Bottom, where caveman SpongeBob and Patrick live. Here, Squidward swats angrily at a jellyfish. The cavemen immediately copy him, and just like that, jellyfishing is born. This one gag changes everything. The activity Squidward hates most in life, the very thing SpongeBob and Patrick used to torment him, exists because of him. He invented it. This is what's known as a bootstrap paradox. Something exists without a true origin because it loops through time endlessly. Jellyfishing didn't come from SpongeBob or Patrick. It came from Squidward's frustration in the past, even though Squidward only knew about it because SpongeBob already practiced it in the present. It's a cycle with no beginning, a cruel joke the universe played on Squidward. The irony is brutal. Squidward wanted to escape the things that annoyed him most. Instead, he became the one who started them. Jellyfishing exists because Squidward swatted a jellyfish, and now, no matter how much he hates it, he can never undo what he created. The White Void, SpongeBob's darkest space. After Squidward breaks the time machine, he doesn't land in another time. He lands in nothing, a blank white void. The underwater illusion vanishes. No bubbles, no background sounds, no sense of the ocean at all. At first, Squidward enjoys the silence. Finally, he's alone, but quickly the peace turns to horror. His voice begins to echo back at him, glitching, overlapping, almost mocking him. Strange fragments of color float by, broken shapes that resemble shattered memories. It's the only time in SpongeBob history where the rules of the ocean are completely erased. This isn't just a gag. It's limbo, a purgatory where broken timelines, deleted realities, and lost identities drift endlessly. Squidward wanted freedom, but here he finds the terrifying truth. Without SpongeBob, Patrick, and even jellyfishing, he has no identity. Alone, he is nothing. This is why so many fans interpret the void as Squidward's death. When the machine collapses, it explodes in light, flattening Squidward to subatomic size. Some argue the void is his afterlife. Others see it as his soul, separated from his body. Either way, it's one of the darkest spaces SpongeBob has ever shown, a place where nothingness becomes unbearable. The machine that listens. When Squidward finally begs to go home, the time machine reappears. But this time it doesn't need levers or instructions. It simply listens and obeys. That detail changes everything. The time machine isn't a neutral device, it's a cycle enforcer. Its purpose is not to explore time, it's to reset Squidward whenever he breaks the loop. It doesn't care about logic or destinations, it cares about restoring the cycle. So when Squidward screams, it drags him back to Conch Street. Not to freedom, not to peace, but right back where he started. And the first thing he hears? SpongeBob and Patrick inviting him to go jellyfishing. The loop has closed and Squidward realizes he can never truly escape. Why Squidward suffers most? Here's the real tragedy. SpongeBob and Patrick are eternal, cloned versions of themselves who repeat their lives endlessly. For them, the cycle is just normal life. They laugh, they jellyfish, they have fun. They don't know they're trapped. But Squidward does. He remembers the freezer, the future, the void. He knows he created jellyfishing. He knows the machine is controlling him. And he knows no matter what he does, the cycle will reset again. That's why Squidward is so bitter in every other episode. It's not just SpongeBob's laugh or Patrick's stupidity. It's the weight of knowing he's trapped in a loop with no escape. The things he hates most aren't just annoyances. They're eternal reminders of his curse. Squidward suffers because he knows. And that makes him one of the most tragic characters in the show. He's not just a grumpy neighbor, he's a man haunted by knowledge, cursed to relive the same torment forever. Conclusion: the episode no one understands. On the surface, SB-129 looks like a goofy time travel story, but in reality it's SpongeBob's most misunderstood episode. It hides paradoxes, reveals SpongeBob and Patrick's immortality, confronts Squidward with limbo, and shows a time machine designed not for adventure but for control. That's why the episode feels so disturbing. It's not about Squidward being annoyed, it's about identity collapse. It's about what happens when you try to run from your role in life, only to discover you created it yourself. It's about being trapped in a loop where the very things you hate are the only things that define you. And that's why Squidward's story is so heartbreaking. He isn't just irritated, he's cursed with awareness. SpongeBob and Patrick will always laugh. They will always jellyfish, the world will always reset, and Squidward will always be the only one who knows the truth. So the next time you watch SpongeBob drag Squidward out for another jellyfishing trip, remember this. He isn't just annoyed, he's haunted. And SB-129 is the episode that proves it. I'm going to keep dropping more of these cartoon breakdowns, so if that's your thing, stick around. Hit subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for being here, and catch you next time.